Hello and welcome to Shaman Sister Sessions, episode 65, Initiations and Feminine Leadership. And I'm Catherine Bird, and I'm super excited to be here with my shaman sister, Michelle Hawk, who's my co-host, but also Katerina Satori, who is joining us today for our episode to talk about the role of the modern rites of passage and initiations and birthing a new paradigm in feminine leadership. This is such an exciting topic. I want to just kind of give everybody an introduction to Katerina. She is an incredible way shower and light bringer to the planet. I invited Katerina on because I'm always seeing her offerings and what she's bringing, and her Katerina does a lot of Facebook lives, and is just like totally, in the spur of the moment, like whenever she can, bringing wisdom and illumination. And I really appreciate that so much of you, Katerina. She's an internationally acclaimed spiritual teacher, and she is in Laguna Beach, California, but I know she travels all over the world bringing her message. And she serves luminaries and soulpreneurs and shares innovative tools and practices and paradigm upgrades for awakening the heart's innate wisdom. Katerina's core teaching centers on the frequency shift model, her signature process for cultivating energetic sovereignty and optimizing lifestyle outcomes. And, Katerina she's got all of these amazing tools in her toolbox. She is a belief system surgeon, which I love this as a title, going in there and really working on those deep-seated beliefs. She's a modern shaman and prosperity activator, and she leverages archetypal psychology, genetic energetics, ancient indigenous ceremonial processes, human design, entrepreneurial acumen, the gene keys, and other leading edge technologies to catalyze your accelerated evolution of consciousness. Katerina is just full of wisdoms and so many different offerings from different places that she's bringing in to truly help people in such a well-rounded way, which I love so much about you and your work, Katerina. Thank you for coming and being on the show.
You got me at the Shaman Sisters. I was like, whatever it is, I'm in. The name speaks for itself, and plus your last name, the Hawk, is like, it's such a guardian for me. I constantly work with the Hawk energy. Yes. And the bird, right? So like your name, I believe in the power of the name. Mm-hmm. So much power. So it was just and I'm like, I'm so excited to connect and drop in on a soul level and just like explore this topic or whatever we're going to go.
Wonderful. Well, Katerina, thank you so much. And I'm absolutely delighted to have you as a guest on our show. So this is our time to play. For those of us who might be joining us for the first time, I see a bunch of people I haven't met before tuning in live. Thank you so much for joining us. This is an invitation. We're having a conversation, and if you've got questions or comments, please feel free to chat them in because we can see them, and then we'll address them as we're going. So, but Katerina, how are you doing today?
I feel so good. I feel so good, Michelle. My heart is open. My body feels strong. I just finished like a Navy SEAL workout.
Wow.
I was just telling Catherine that is part of an investment in leadership, having a strong body. So I don't fly away. It's so easy for me to leave my body and fly away in the cosmic galactic universes. But the practice is to stay here and to be of service here.
Absolutely. I think that's a really key fundamental piece of what we're talking about is, as we're exploring today, initiations on a feminine leadership path and exploring, we're also really looking at what is the new archetype of leadership that we are collectively shifting into and personally shifting into. So staying here, staying in the body, and I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah. It's almost like we are in such a dire need of descended masters, right? Mm-hmm. We're like, we were ascending, and we just had this collective epiphany. Oh my goodness, actually the way in is the way in. And, you know, and I just remember our good friend, Jesus, who taught us that the leader walks amongst the people, you know, and that phrase always resonates with me. So my question is, how can I walk amongst the people more? How can I be so attuned to what's really going on with people's hearts and souls and dreams and challenges? And the more I am, you know, evening that playing ground, like we're just two pilgrims. You know, there's not even I'm a leader, you're the follower. Hey, we are pilgrims on this path. And we hear, so that level of acceptance and equality and humanness does all the miracles, because people can relax and let you in when they see you just human.
Absolutely. I love that meeting in this. I love your term descended masters. That just made my day. It's like, yes, okay. And how are we embodying our mastery, not as anything that is beyond us, but as, you know, this is part of the master path. This is part of the leadership path. And Katerina, you're also a little quiet. I'm wondering if you can either, and Kat, is anybody else hearing her quiet? Is that?
She's a little quieter than you, Michelle, for sure.
Okay, I will speak a little bit louder.
Okay.
I have a full microphone. And
okay.
How about now?
That's better. Great. Okay, cool. I just want people to hear everything you're saying because it's awesome. So, yeah.
So as we're diving in here, you know, we've already kind of started, you know, what does this mean? You know, like, what are we actually talking about? Both, like, I think first, let's maybe talk about leadership first and foremost, like this feminine leadership that we're talking about. And I think that this initial, you know, golden truth that you're bringing in around this new way of leading from within, of not being separate, of, you know, allowing ourselves to be walking side by side and hand by hand through this process. What else is there about this new phase of leadership that we're cultivating that you feel is really important for us to be aware of?
Yeah. Oh, you just summarized it so beautifully, Catherine, so beautifully. You know, the prophecy that was given to us through the transmission of the gene keys that I work so closely with. You know, this is the book that like oasis for my soul. I go and drink this vision, drink these words, right? And the first time I tapped into the prophecy of collective leadership, it was like, boom, this is it. This is the new paradigm. Yes, it's a vision for now. Yes, we can only model the animal world, like a beehive and ants world, right? Collective leadership, they're serving the purpose, they're serving the dharma, they're serving the collective vision. And, you know, so this is what inspires me, is when we start asking, it's not my vision or your vision, it's our vision, and we're serving the source. So the new paradigm of leadership from my perspective is, I always ask myself, no matter what I launch, no matter what I do, no matter what I desire to bring to the marketplace, does this serve the self or this serve the source? And if you're honestly asking your heart, you will know. And it's like, this is my barometer of staying on track. You know, whatever I'm gonna create and offer, what is it really serves? And when I serve the source, I serve the all, I serve the whole, and it's a collective leadership, collective prosperity. So my goal and my vision, ladies, I'm all about education, all about giving people tools, right? So I see every soul that Spirit brings to me, that they are divinely guided by their higher self, and there is a dormant, sleeping leader in them. And my opportunity to ignite that spark and help them see themselves in a new light, and then share maybe a tool or two, share a story or two, right? And that's what really ignites me, you know, because every single person has the potential to connect with their divinity. Once they connect with their divinity, it's only a matter of time then they will complete their healing process and they start asking, how can I give back? How can I contribute? How can I make a difference? It's a part of programmed evolution in our DNA.
Mm.
Just need to be ignited a little bit. And that's what we do for each other.
Mm. Absolutely.
I love this. And I love the, like this conscious awareness of the leader within. And I think that a lot of times, you know, we all work with those that are kind of called to the spiritual path and the healing path. And often there's a lot of conflict, internal conflict over what it means to be a leader, both because of, you know, sort of what we're holding in our collective and in our lineages around being persecuted for doing so. And then also what we're, you know, our concepts of, oh, that makes me separate. It puts me above, and then that makes me be an ego. And then that makes me, you know, like not be in service to source. And so I really appreciate this sort of definition of how do we stop that internal conflict within ourselves and get back to, oh no, this is in alignment.
Yeah. What a beautiful distinction. What a beautiful distinction. Yeah, it will. It's an incredible journey because yes, the path of the leadership will demand for us to see what we refuse to see most of our life, right? But there is such liberation there because it's just an invitation to the intimacy with our soul and intimacy with our heart, right? And I also see leadership as simply a devotion to self-mastery. Because what's the most effective way to lead? Just model what you believe. You don't even have to preach or say or be on a platform. Just be a model. Don't be a perfect model. Just do your very best. Commit to self-mastery. So I think that's the bridge, because sometimes people are like, oh, I want to be a leader, but who am I to claim that title? You don't need to claim the title. Just commit to self-mastery. And then the leadership opportunity will be magnetized to you because consciousness is looking for vessels available for service. I am convinced of that. You know, so sometimes, and then the gift of initiation, we're gonna of course go into that as well. It's refinement of our vessel, right? And reconnection to our true self. So beautiful process that's available to all of us.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we've been alluding to, and I want to give a couple different words to, is this idea of that path to leadership. You know, so often when we think about the archetype of the leader, it's like the lone person on the top of the mountain kind of deal. And so there is the aspect of self in that, like, who am I, Katerina, like you were saying, is who am I to be a leader? And yet also coming into that omnipositive consciousness, collaborative aspect of we can all be that person stepping forward to model, again, you know, modeling that which we are calling in collectively. So it is really that beautiful both and. It's a yes and. It's not I'm a leader by myself or I'm only, you know, in collaboration and the bees and the ants. It's like yes and those things. It's like I get to be the in alignment with this flow and with this in service to all beings by being me, by being this light, by owning the self and mastering the self. So it's one of these, you know, I love as we're exploring all these topics, you know, there's so much just in the collective air right now that is like this and this seemingly opposing facts or viewpoints that are actually, you know, again, two sides of the coin right here.
Divine paradox. We're swimming in it.
Yes, I love it.
I'm so glad that we have that, because how boring our existence would be without it, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're just like spirits, totally, like, you know, from the cosmic perspective, I just see it all as the giant entertainment show, and and we're like, let's do some divine paradoxes in this reality, because it's more color and spectrum and and dimensionality of our experience.
Yeah, divine paradox, divine play. I'm a Gemini, so I live in that world.
Oh, of course. It's like breathing for you, huh?
Yeah, it's like, of course, that and that thing that seem on opposite ends of the spectrum. It's interesting, though. I want to bring in one more piece, Katerina, that you talked about, like the evolution aspect. It's, you know, in our DNA, and you're referencing gene keys, really referring to, and I'm going to take a mini science side road here because I love that. You know, Darwinian theory of evolution is so competitive. It's, you know, survival of the fittest, which, you know, is mean like whoever has the most offspring wins, right? You know, they're passing on their genes. And it's so, I can only win if I kill you or if I have more resources than you. And that is the archetype of evolution that we're so trained into. And yet there's this other really less well-known, but really awesome evolutionary theorist from around the same time, Lamarck, and Lamarckian evolution is completely different. His theory is all based on collaboration and all based on how does nature work in collaboration and work in niches, and okay, I'm going to eat this resource and you eat that resource, and so that there gets to be the most abundance and there gets to be the most life. That is the theory of Lamarckian evolution. And I think that, you know, again, this is hundreds of years ago or like about 150, 160 years ago in this realm of scientific investigation that we're just coming into now of, oh yeah, it is this collaborative thing.
So good. So good.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Love it. And, you know, since we brought the gene keys or they just popped in, it's a transmission, you know, once it begins living with you, it just comes everywhere you go. So the gene key transmission, you know, what I love about that is the message is the hidden higher purpose is locked into your DNA, right? It's only waiting for your permission to invoke, right? To be invoked and to be explored and to be accepted. But once it gets that ignition and permission, it begins to detonate everything in your life, right? So it's actually this blueprint for leadership, for evolution, for transformation. It's all inside. It's all in our DNA, right? And we have the knowledge, we have the tools. So that's what's really promising for me, is that we have the blueprint already within us. So all the ancient mystic that would say everything you search is already within us. But now we have the confirmation from the science, from esoteric studies, right? From the quantum physics. They all come into unity. They all come to collaboration, opposing forces, right? They come to confirm, yeah, nature creates in collaboration. And, you know, since we touched about the feminine leadership, right now we model this feminine leadership, right? In the collaboration, we see each other, we honor each other, wisdom. And this is what I believe sets feminine leadership apart. You know, we're here because we know we serve the same cause. We serve the source. And when we serve the source, you know, this old paradigm of competition, you're better than me, I'm better than you, or this is my part, this is your part, you know, you bring this, all of that falls away. It cannot survive on the higher altitude of service. It cannot. You know, that's why initiation will purify the process, purify the vessel. So by the time you and I, ladies, meet, we can see each other's soul. And we feel that on the level of frequency because we've done so much shadow work. We've done so much, you know, deep wound healing, right? And it just shows in the frequency and vibration how we can commune, collaborate, and co-create.
Beautiful. I love it. I love it. Yeah. And looking to I guess I would also want to ask you, Katerina, you know, what are some other characteristics that you're seeing sort of that a little bit juxtaposition of what we have been working in, which is this archetype of masculine leadership, and how can we be on the lookout in ourselves, and how can we cultivate this further? You know, how can viewers, especially who are tuning in, how can we do this better, I guess, or do this more? You're talking about it all falls away as soon as we're in in service, really. And so I guess service is one of the underlined pieces. I'm wondering if you have anything else.
Yeah. Well, what comes to me, I when I was preparing for our conversation, I was tuning in into my heart, like, well, what would be the 3 words that I can bring as an offering, that would really symbolize the process of initiation and on the feminine leadership. And the 3 words that came is surrender, refinement, and endurance. Right? And all of those come with purification, initiatory fire, right? The rite of passage. And the first one is surrender. I will never forget my conscious surrender to spirit. When I was on my knees and I did a whole ritual process to anchor my subconscious mind, to give up my arrogant and weak attempt to control my life and to dictate the spirit, how I want to serve the spirit. That was really arrogant. And eventually, I found myself on my knees and I said, I desire to serve the source so much. I do not need to know how it's going to unfold. I'm saying yes to my sacred soul contract without knowing what it's going to require of me, what is going to lead me. I am in, 100% in. So that was the first one, surrender, right? And boom, I invoked first layer of initiations to move me into the second stage of refinement, right? Refinement of the ego, purification of my desires, of my attachments, of my fears. What a fantastic gift, right? It's not easy when you're going through it, but you're never alone. And there's usually other pilgrims on the path that tend to appear when you feel weakest the most, and then they'll be like, you're doing it great, you're on the right path. Or the birds or the nature. That's where I really, really dove into my relationship with nature and built such a strong connections with animals, with plants, with birds, with, I'm surrounded by almonds. And then, so the refinement, right? Refinement. And every stage prepares you for a bigger assignment. Even 2 years ago, darlings, if you told me that I would be working with 2 very powerful sacred allies, I'd be like, oh, great idea. That's nice. Now one day, but I don't think my mind would be on board. So I was prepared in stages to receive this level of partnerships, because that's another sign of how I see the evolution of feminine leadership is this aligned soul partnership. I call them sacred allies, right? Where you just, you magnetize them by the power of your aura, by the power of your clarity and your commitment. You magnetize your true allies and they show up and the immediate recognition is happening. So the second stage is refinement. And the third stage, or third word, they don't have to be stages, endurance and soul stamina. That's another way to call it, right? So the gift of initiation is to really help us build a very strong soul, right? Once again, why would we care to have a strong soul? In order for us to receive next level of assignment, next level of vision, right? So entire body says, yes, I am available. I am ready. Once again, I don't know what is going to be asked of me, what is going to require me. I am saying yes because I have a strong soul. I really met my shadow, I met my depth, I met my fears, and they turned into my guardians, right? So that's kind of like the 3 words that I bring here to this container, that every single thing that shows up on our path is the medicine that we require right now, right? And, there is a book in me all about the void, the power of the void. And the very first time I went to initiation of the void, right? The feeling of deep disorientation. You don't know who you are. What are your gifts? Where are you going? You're like a total cocoon, floating in space. And at least that's how I experienced my first void, where the rug was just ripped from under my feet and everything I built just began to crash. That was my very, very first experience of the void. And the second time that I was being asked to go there, and the third time, and the fourth time, I began to see the void as this giant cosmic womb. And every time I go there, the old identity gets burned, right? How does the phoenix raises from the ashes? It has to burn all the way. Phoenix cannot just, you can burn one wing. Okay, I'll give you one wing to burn, and then I want to rise up. That doesn't work like that, right? You gotta go into the fire and just burn. Grace, which you can invoke by the heartfelt invocation. Spirit of grace is what raises you up. So, yeah.
Yay! I just want to let it sit. I've got a little bit of a. Do you guys hear that? I have an echo.
Yeah.
I don't hear an echo.
Yeah, I went super echoey for me.
Okay, it's better now.
Might be better now.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to kind of let that sit for everyone, because so often on these spiritual paths, we are in these initiatory experiences and we aren't aware that that's actually what's going on. We think, oh, I'm having a nervous breakdown. I've failed because I'm losing everything, or my life is changing so quickly, or I'm having these awarenesses, or I'm becoming so sensitive, like all of these things that we're going through. And often we kind of bemoan them in a way, and we fight them, and we want to struggle against them. And how can I keep what I've known stable and secure and not fall into surrender, not let myself have that experience of that initial initiatory phase. And then we're almost trying to get to the end part where we're, before we've gotten through these sort of layers and levels bit by bit, and allowing ourselves to have this experience. I think, what would you say is the, maybe the missing piece as to how do we allow ourselves to go through this process with this grace? It is often, I see people, it's just such a struggle. There's so much inner turmoil that's coming through in this process. So what do you have to say about that?
Every void and every initiation brought me closer to God. Whatever we call God, Divine Mother, Divine Spirit, Source. So I linked that. I made a powerful connection that every time what it looks like things fall apart, it's literally an invitation for an intimacy with my soul. So I rediscovered the power of prayer. And I used to view it, once again, if you even told me even 5 years ago, Katerina, prayer is powerful. I had such a challenging religious background of 10 years of conservative Christianity that left a lot of scars, a lot of wounding, right? So it would give me like my subconscious mind, which is almost go jittery. And my very first biggest void brought me to my knees. And I'm so grateful that I did, because I rediscovered the power of mystical prayer. It's a quantum command, quantum request. It's a communion with Source. So that is the first tool I give to people. I say, you can talk to God. You can talk to Source, Spirit, creator force, whatever you want to call it. You can simply commune with your heart and listen to your heart, because a process will be so individual for people. But prayer never let me down. Asking for an almonds that you're not going crazy is also very effective.
Yes, please send me something to let me know I'm not going insane.
And it's so true. It's so true. I remember I was launching one of the really, really big events, the biggest events of my life, that I put everything on the line, ladies. You know, crazy, visionary, risk taker. And I asked for an almond, and I said, Spirit, this is the almond that I'm asking, you know, because if you give me just one almond, I'm going to go full force, whatever it's going to require me. And I got the almond in the same day, in an hour. And that almond carried me through the trial of that experience, because it was not easy, right? This is how you learn the gift of strategy, either in business or leadership in life, is through a ton of very difficult experiences that, you know, wow, you know what? I went to that bush and I met a lot of raccoons and I got scratched and there's a bear there. And not recommend to go to that side over there, because you know you went that path, right? So that's, and the leader, the power of leadership is strategy. You know, it's strategy. So leaders go first. Like my divine sister Marcy Locke always talks, you know, she says leaders go first, and I really love that. I took that in. So when you go first, that's what I lean on. I lean on in the power of my heart, prayer, communion with the divine. Every single time I go through a trial initiation, oh my goodness, my spiritual practice is the strongest, right? It's the strongest. It's deep motivational factor. I'm consistent with my spiritual practice as I am, but I cannot compare when I am in trial. Right? I am so close to God because that's what I lean into, and that's the gift of it. So I remind people, this is your direct path to source. You know, and if everything collapses in your world, you're going to discover the true inner source of strength, which is in your sacred heart and your connection with the divine. So prayer, then nature, the almonds, asking for the almonds, beginning to come. You both are shaman sisters. You know, who can testify better than you, right? You practice, you live it. And learning to listen to the nature's word and nature's wisdom. Oh, and then you just remember how deeply you are held by life. And I think that's the whole biggest epiphany for me was, there is no rock bottom. It's an illusion of a frightened mind. So sometimes you are so curious to figure that out as a soul. You say, let me just create this experience that looks like rock bottom, just so I could really learn that there is no such a thing.
And it's, when I hear you say that, Katerina, it also makes me think about, you know, are we so hungry for those initiatory experiences and the experience of returning to that grace? You know, like you said, your spiritual practice is the strongest when you are in trial, right? And I have to wonder, are we so hungry for that we put ourselves through such suffering and trial in order to come back to God and come back to our practices?
That's a beautiful distinction. That's a beautiful distinction. What kind of instantly emerged, like another layer to it, humans do not evolve through comfort. They just don't, you know. We can cruise like happy pelicans, you know, everything is great, but the biggest growth and evolution comes through challenge. So we entertain ourselves, right? We say, let's create, it's like this virtual video game, you know, like, okay, how do I progress to the next level? You know, I give myself an experience of that looks like incredible challenge for me to build a strong soul, to discover what I really need of, to discover, hey, can I really form aligned partnership, or do I fantasize about it? You know, but once you step into aligned any partnership in leadership and business, wow, you know, you really get to know, can you thrive in partnership? Can you show up as can you really co-lead, or is your ego still need refinement? So all of these experiences, yeah, we don't grow in comfort. And I think this is the curse and the challenge. Curse maybe is a strong word, but I would say the shadow of the Western world is comfort.
Mm.
And I'm an immigrant. I came to this country with $3 in my pocket, knowing nobody, and started my life at completely ground zero. I went from a very, very bare minimum survival. My very first job was scrubbing floors in hotels, right? So that was a very humbling beginning. But what I had, that people around me who were also scrubbing floors, what they didn't have, I had the hunger for a better life, hunger to unlock the potential that I always knew was there. The divine blueprint was there. Yes, it was asleep for a lot of years, but I knew it would wake up, and I knew the more I would tend to my heart, the more I would awake that remembrance. So that's why I celebrate the challenge. I celebrate the initiation, because that wakes us up to a bigger reality, what we're here to do, what's going on, how can we be of service, how can we be kind to each other. And once you go through initiation, you soften. You start noticing and have more compassion to others, because you know how deeply it can refine you, right? And how challenging it can be.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd love to delve more into initiations. We've looked at, the leadership part of it, and we've danced around a few aspects of these initiatory experiences, but let's look more at that. What are we talking about? You've talked about initiations into the void. You're talking about initiations very much in the earthly sense. So moving to a new place, starting from ground zero, building yourself up. We have initiations through the phoenixification of our lives, the burning away through loss. But how, what are some hallmarks of initiatory experiences? And Kat, as you were saying, I know we've talked about this before. I think I put out an article about it recently, but we don't recognize initiations until after they've happened usually.
Totally.
Right. But it's how can we get better at recognizing it in the moment, so we can really be present with it, rather than, oh my God, hurry up, and just be done with this experience already. But how can we recognize them and immerse in them and surrender, like you were talking about, surrender to them, to let ourselves be refined and cultivate that endurance of the soul?
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that, Michelle. Yes, life initiates us. We don't know when it's gonna come. It's it does not come with the email in your inbox. Initiation next week. Get ready. It's floods into your life, right? Mm-hmm. I see initiation as a very organic and natural part of spiritual awakening. It's a stage in the spiritual journey. So you don't have to be a leader to be initiated. Life will take care of it. Life will initiate you. How I understand how they show up, it's an accelerated spiritual growth. Right? Accelerated spiritual growth. So a lot of times, you'll be drawn to, for example, I'm going through a process right now where I just watch a huge expansion of my skills, specifically in soul healing modalities, right? It's just naturally resources, people, connections, everything kind of all in the same theme, right? So I'm already intuiting that I'm entering a new level of understanding of what it really means, to assist somebody with healing of the inner split of inner soul, right? Also the level of the mind. So I would say just pay attention to, hey, have you become really fascinated by one particular topic in your life, and that's all you want to study, that's all you're drawn to, right? Whether it's the soul, it's your language, it's the healing modality. Very, very key to pay attention to that. And also, if you feel melancholy, I did a live stream about the gift of melancholy. It has a right to exist, where you just sometimes you just feel like not yourself. You're it's dullness, it's blah, and whatever was fulfilling me does not anymore. And I want to fix this feeling. That's also a big sign for me, when I want to fix this feeling and move through it, and I'm gonna tap into my gazillion tools, and I want to fix it right now, right? That energy. invitation to go back into the body, back into the nature, and just listen, you know, and really trust that you will be supported, you'll guide it. I also journal a lot. Every single day I write, you know, 2-3 pages where I'm empty my mental cup, empty these thoughts. And if I pay attention, I reread what I write once a week. I will see a thread of what my consciousness is giving me hints, right? And then one more is dreams. I often get either like a warning dreams or prophetic dreams, or my dreams become more rich in symbology. I pay attention to that as well. I'm like, interesting. Something is brewing in my conscious, right? So yeah, so it's almost like, you know, when you cook a big pot of soup, right? And you put the vegetables and you left it for a few hours, but you know it's something is brewing, you know, and then the smoke is coming out. Initiation is like that. You're like, something is brewing in me. Something is gonna erupt, and you just trust the process. And what always helps me when I'm in the thick of it, I always lean into how can I remember the cosmic view, right? Yes, I can always go and sit in the sacred ceremony and connect with the plants to get that cosmic remembrance. And I also can go and watch a beautiful documentary like Samadhi. The second part just came out 3 days ago, right? So something like that, something to remind the small part of my human brain about my divinity. So it's little anchors like that. I put them very strategically in my life that I can lead into. Yeah.
I love that. Absolutely. So maintaining the big picture perspective when we least feel like it. When, you know, all of our attention is going on, oh, there's this crisis happening. I can't pay attention to anything else because this is all there is, this crisis. And then, you know, kind of taking a breath, zooming out. Yes, it's again a yes and of yes, this is happening right now, this very focused thing. And also it's in the context of not only my entire life here in this body on this planet, but also my role in the divine play. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, like leaning into your favorite teachers and role models, right? So I connected with Wayne Dyer and with Carolyn Mice, right? They're classic teachers and leaders, but something about their transmission really moves my soul. So when I feel most lost or confused, I just go on long walks, nature walks, and I just listen to the audio transmission. And I was like, oh, frequency. That's all I'm receiving, a frequency of reassurance. Yes, you're on the right path. Absolutely, it's part of the journey, right? And also, sharing what you're going through with people who deserve the right to hear it, like Brené Brown taught us, right? Share your story with people who deserve the right to hear it. So I'm so happy we give this conversation a voice, right? Because like I wish I heard something like this when I was going through my very first void. It's very disoriented, right? And you just, you know, the more you fight it, the longer it's gonna get. The deeper you can relax your body. I would say that's where every time I go through initiation, I learn such respect for my body, you know, because the body holds all the answers. The body holds the codes, right? So once again, it's like an intimacy, not only with my soul, but also with my body. And I'm so grateful for this vessel, you know, because without it, right, we cannot be descended masters.
Exactly. And I think, you know, you've given so many amazing, incredible tools for people to work with. Like I can't even name all of the tools back. Michelle's usually good at that part where we name the tools back, but you have just like given us so many pieces and this, you know, this piece around being in the body and trusting the body and coming back to that and coming back to our spiritual teachers and back to the people who we are, you know, inspired by to give us that reassurance that, no, I am okay. It's super uncomfortable. Doesn't really feel like what I want to be doing right now, but this is an important piece. And I think it's what I always find whenever, like you say, oh, my spiritual practice is always the best at that point. You know, what I always find is that my tool set just goes, okay, I've got to deal with this now. Okay, well, let's see, what else, what do I really need in order to support myself? You know, what are the other tools for my practice? What are the other awarenesses? What do I need to clean up? What do I need to add in? It's always those times when, you know, it is helpful to be like, okay, what, and even asking, right? When you're having those prayers, like, okay, bring those people, bring those teachers, bring those practices into my awareness that are going to help me to be able to transition through this and to keep moving to higher levels afterwards, right?
Catherine, you just nailed something. You just pointed something so powerful about the tools. You know, how expansion of the toolbox. I totally resonate with that. And I wonder if you notice that a lot of times when I go through a massive initiation, my previous tools not effective anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I need something totally new.
So what you said about calling in the teachers, calling in the tools for you, it's such a key piece. You know, it's just ability. I think we forgot a lot of times. I speak for myself. I forgot how to ask. You know, so that the spiritual path taught me it's okay to ask, and it's actually welcome to ask. You know, so the more you ask, the more boom, here it is. All I needed was to ask, and here it is: idea, inspiration, book, teacher, assignment, call, gift from somebody. You know, so many times I'd go through a process, and somebody would just, hey, I feel guided to gift you a session.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes to me. I wasn't looking for it, right? But it just comes because I ask in my heart, and the universe, boom, here it is for you. So I would say that's also for our viewers and listeners. Lean on that, your ability to magnetize the feminine, your inner feminine, and by asking through vulnerability of your sacred heart, and you'll be so surprised by what will appear in your universe just like by magic.
I love that. Allowing ourselves to receive as a part and function of leadership. So how do we, I don't need to go into shamanic astrology land. I was about to talk about in Aries archetype. We don't need to do that. But part of effective leadership is, allowing ourselves to be supported so that we can be better supporters. And I really love, Katerina, that you're talking about, receiving all the tools that we need, receiving the support that we need, receiving the finances that we need, the love that we need, the reassurance and the confirmation and the affirmation that we need, so that, again, modeling leadership not as like, I've got it all covered, I'm taking care of everybody. Again, this is like new paradigm of leadership of I get to be supported and I get to be fed and lifted up by everybody as I am lifting everybody up with me.
That's right, Michelle. I would love to learn about shamanic astrology. Sign up.
Yeah.
Well, I think that this is kind of that key, right? Because none of us are going to be, it's not like, oh, I've gone through my initiation, I'm done. I'm now the leader. No, it doesn't work that way. And so each one of us, even though we have tools and we have our practices and we have awareness of, oh, I'm going to be okay through this experience, we're going to go through it over and over and over again. And sometimes really be smacked and go, okay, I do need support, even though I've seen myself in this sort of, position or role or experience or whatever. Like, oh, I need to consistently be willing to be vulnerable and to be honest and to ask for help when I need it, and not see that as weakness or as it means that I'm a fraud. It means that I haven't achieved, whatever it is I think that I have needed to have achieved by now, or whatever that is. Each one of us is going to keep going through this process, and to be so kind and compassionate with ourselves, the same as we would be for anyone around us going through this process for the first time.
that is the key piece, you know, that art, it's such an art of self-compassion, where, you know, sometimes at times I would catch myself in giving more compassion to my client than to myself, right? And that was a huge red flag. I was like, oops, I do not model what I really desire to teach and share with a person. So I would transparently speak about it in the moment. It's one of the parts of the feminine leadership that I really wanted to highlight in this conversation is transparency, right? Transparency for me, how I understand it, nothing to hide, nothing to prove. Now, can I be that transparent in my leadership, that it's my honesty is inspiring to others to be more true to their own hearts and to their own style of leadership, right? And it's like opening those curtains and say, you know, this is how the creative process looks like. This is how leadership process looks like. It's imperfect, but it's real. It comes from the heart. And this is when, you know, this is what it looks like when I lose my way. This is what it looks like when I find my way, right? And you give people a blueprint and a path, right, that they can see and receive the codes instead of, well, this is how you get from A and magically show up on the Z, you know, that just does not work. You know, my sacred ally, Yvonne de la Flor, she calls it photoshopped reality. And this is a huge virus in the digital space, the photoshopped reality. So I just have this huge grounded optimism to the new paradigm of leadership, and it's all based off I have nothing to prove and nothing to hide. I lead from the heart. Can you feel the frequency of the heart? Yeah, of course you can. That's all that matters.
I love that.
So beautiful.
Wow. There's so much you know, Kat, it's funny you're saying, oh, Michelle's usually good at wrapping up. And but we talked about so much. We've given people so many things to think about. So I guess I would love to hear from you, Katerina, as we're kind of nearing the end of our time today. If there's any piece of advice you have for people tuning in about either or, I would say, or both and, if you like, about ways that we can work more proactively with our initiatory experiences in order to surrender to our own leadership. I guess that's kind of where, you know, if we're looking at what is our core takeaway that I really want to offer to people is, you know, you mentioned a few things. We are all leaders. We all have that within us. And how can we show up personally and collectively to be in more graceful leadership? And how can those initiatory experiences support us in claiming that and owning that? And I'm wondering if you have any other one piece of advice that you would love to impart people with before we close today.
Yeah, it's almost like a mantra that I chant when things get really rocky and turbulent. Yeah, there's three pieces to it. The higher the turbulence, the higher the altitude. So if your life going through all the shaking, you know you're about to reach a whole new height of your experience. The second part, I trust my path. I trust my path so deeply that I don't need to know where it's going to lead me. And the third part, I trust my gifts. And I think every initiation helps to refine you, helps you get really crystal clear. What are your true gifts? And what I've learned again and again, the moment I'm in service, my gifts show up, right? Prosperity gets activated. When I serve, I am served. So I can trust my gifts, I can trust my path, and I can trust that every turbulence in my life brings a new level of altitude into my life, into my leadership. So little anchors like that, they play a huge difference. And what I recommend, if you ever come and visit my home, you will see a lot of visual representation what I'm talking about. A lot of visual reminders. It either can be a saying or a map of my intention and my dreams. You know, I have this giant Ankh written on a big piece of paper, and in the Ankh I have the intentions for this year, like my sacred vision, and I see it every single day. You know, so visual representation, where are you going? building your altar, so you're anchored in this reality is very, very key. And just knowing that you're divinely held. And if everything else fails, one thought that carried me through so much in life, like, if I've made it this far, I can really trust life carrying me forward.
I love it. Absolutely. Oh my gosh, Katerina, thank you so much. Yes. And I mean, yeah, hey, if that's an invitation, I'd love to come visit and like hang out. As long as we're
Michelle, I have a hawk, so this female hawk that comes to this one tree that is, I have a masculine tree, this pine tree, and I have a feminine tree. She only comes to the feminine tree, and it's a female hawk. It always comes, at least like once or twice a week, but she always comes on the almond when I call her. Yeah, so I have like a sanctuary. I would love for you to visit.
I love it. Yes, please. We'll work that out next time we're in the area. Katerina, how can people reach out to you or find you?
I am so easily discovered and found on the magical Facebook land. I'm there daily, a few times a day. So I welcome people just to follow me there, because I give so many video trainings. My live streams are like video trainings. I do a lot of collaborations, and they're just there, free of charge, of course, all service to others. And my website is in the final stage of rebirth. It will be released probably in 2 weeks. So before that, yeah, I know
congratulations, amazing. Yeah,
ladies, it took 9 months, like a real rebirth.
Absolutely.
9 months. We're in the final contraction right there.
Awesome. Well, hey, what better time to come on here and tell people about it? So by the time this is all uploaded and people are finding it online, it's katerinasatori.com, right?
That's right. Super easy.
Okay, wonderful. And people can find you on Facebook. Yeah, I've seen some of your live videos. It's awesome. I highly recommend it. People go check her out, go follow. And Katerina, thank you so much for joining us today. It's such a pleasure to hear from you and to hear all the amazing wisdom that you have discovered and accumulated and stepped into throughout your journey. And thanks for sharing.
Thank you so much for having me. I had such a joy, such a joy. Thank you.
Thank you, Katerina. And I'll just say, Katerina does all of this so much, this acts of service and free content. And, Michelle and I are huge advocates of that, of free content and acts of service in that way, as to be support for what's going on. And then also Katerina's, like, the courses that you can take with Katerina, just through the gene keys and her energetic upgrades and these transformational. I know she has an archetype course going on right now. So she's so in alignment with, if you're tuning into this podcast, topics that we've discussed, being able to dive really deep in with her and have these transformational experiences. So highly suggest when she gets that website up to get on her newsletter list and learn more about her work in general.
Absolutely. Speaking of free content, in case you haven't seen it yet, or perhaps you're new to Shaman Sister Sessions land, this is episode 65. So we now have 65 episodes, which is way more than 65 hours by the time we're done, of amazing, totally free content. You can find all our past episodes on YouTube, iTunes, and Stitcher. You can also follow us on Facebook, Shaman Sister Sessions, and go to our website if you would like to be on in our digital tribe. We do have a newsletter we send out with articles. We send out videos of every week, so you can just watch right from your inbox, and that's shamansistersessions.com. This work we do offer to you totally free. It is our gift. And also, speaking of receiving, so that we can be of better service, if you feel called to donate to support our work, we would really, really appreciate it. Even $1 a month is helpful. There are so many behind the scenes costs to producing a weekly podcast. And if you feel called to do so, please visit patreon.com/Shaman Sister Sessions. That's patreon.com/Shaman Sister Sessions.
Love it.
Thank you all so much. And next week we will be discussing
spiritual dogma.
Okay, great.
Spiritual dogma. And so, Katerina, you were talking about, significant religious upbringing and I'm sure the dogma around that. And there's just as much dogma present in the conscious community and in the community that we're a part of. So we're going to pick that apart a little bit.
Love it. For sure.
So join us next week. Will be Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific. You can join live and as we discuss spiritual dogma. And we are, again, in so much appreciation for each one of you on your paths of leadership and initiations. And you are doing it. You're doing it perfectly. You're incredible. You're amazing. And if you're looking for that omen, here it is.
Yes. Let us be your omen. And hey, let us know how it's going. If you want to shoot us an email, we'd love to hear, how did this land for you? What omens, what signs are you experiencing stepping into your own leadership path? So you can send us an email, shamansistersessions@gmail.com, and let us know what's up.
Many blessings. Thank you, Katerina.
Bye, ladies.
Bye.